Hey, fellow traveler. Welcome to the Third Eye Awakening podcast, a show where we talk all about spiritual and psychic awakening, magic, the shift from 3D to 5D, star seeds, ascension, multiple timelines, multiple dimensions, the universe, the multiverse, the Akashic records, all the good things. I am your host, Amy Belair, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Okay, let's do this. Hey, my beautiful friends. All right, well, I'm back. So, man, this was the longest unplanned podcasting hiatus I could ever have imagined. Guys, I had no intention of being gone at all, never mind for being gone for that long, but it just was what happened. I'm going to give you a little sort of backstory and just try and succinctly, as if Amy's ever succinct, update you on what has come through for me over the last 3 months and kind of where I'm at. And then we'll carry on with podcasting as usual. I've tried, in full disclosure, I've tried recording a podcast episode probably about half a dozen times over the last 6 weeks. And I just kept getting interrupted every time. Or one time I managed it, but I was so tired and the sound quality was bad and it wasn't a good podcast episode. And I eventually just surrendered and realized it's not for whatever reason I'm on this hiatus. There is something that's really shifting and I need to just let it fucking shift and stop trying to perform, just stop trying to micromanage the process. So if you happen to follow me on either of the main social medias, in the Facebook group or on the Instagram, then you'll kind of know some of this stuff. But I know that there are a lot of listeners that don't necessarily follow me on either place. So I'm going to update you all. First of all, if you were not aware, at the very beginning of January, I do believe it was January 1st, I recorded a 2022 year ahead tarot and Akashic reading for the collective. And it was really awesome and so far has been bang on. It's up on YouTube. So if you want to check it out, go check out my YouTube channel. And the message that came through for the first quarter was, it was going to be a rough first quarter. And I described it as we're paying the price in advance. Like oh my God, in the second quarter, y'all, April, May, June, those months are just going to be incredible, incredible. I'm talking manifestations so fast, so magical, so beautiful. We're going to be floating on a frequency of consciousness that we have not known. We have no context for it in this embodied incarnation that we're currently occupying. I'm sure there have been other lifetimes in other realms, possibly the earth realm, where we have experienced this level of consciousness, but none of us remember it. It's not in living memory is what I'm saying. It's in soul memory. I believe we're going to be really collectively connecting to higher, not fallen Atlantean consciousness, but higher Atlantean consciousness before the fall, as well as Lemurian consciousness, just as a context. And anyway, even with those contexts, it's going to be that and more. And this is only the beginning. So this is all starting. I mean, I'm already feeling it now, but I know it's really going to pick up and swell in April. Okay, so January, February, March was making the payment in advance. It was we want this thing. We're going to have this beautiful experience, incredible ease of manifestation, unlike we've ever known before. But we had to make the payment in advance so that we could actually appreciate it and wield it with care and honor and responsibility, etc. And I mean, the word responsibility just sounds so gross and heavy to me. I hate that word. like responsibility, blah, but it's the kind of responsibility where, you know, it's like if you buy a teenager a car and you buy them a really nice car and they never had to work for it and they barely just have their learner's permit and they don't even have a job. They're going to take that car for granted. And we can judge them all we want, but it's kind of not really their fault. It's just the way it's going to go because it's not so much that they haven't earned it, it's that they have not gone through the experiences that allow them to understand the value of that car to them, right? Not the value that, they're that somebody else is telling them it has, but we each need to go through the experiences necessary to come to a place of understanding the value that any given thing has to us. So that was really what Q1 was. January, February, March was the process of like hugely paying up front, like working at a job and saving up the monies and putting in our spiritual sweat equity, as it were, to prepare us for what is coming in April, May, and June. And honestly, I haven't watched my year ahead reading in a long time, so I kind of can't remember what July onward is about. But I do remember that the second quarter was going to be like, okay, so let me tell you how it has looked for me now that we're almost through with March. I started out January thinking everything was fine and normal. Okay, I recorded this year ahead tarot and Akashic reading, and I was like November and December were so hard for me. I moved to a new house with a little baby and a 3-year old, and I had really significant health issues come up. And so I kind of thought January was like, let the good times roll. Like I'm doing this reading and I'm like, that's going to be for everyone else, not me. Because I already did my hard work, Amy. So nothing bad happened per se. If you want events to catalyze things, then my oldest son turned 17 in the first half of January, and then my grandfather passed away 2 days later. But it was actually a beautiful blessing. I'm so glad he's been released from, the confusion and the loneliness of the dementia that he was experiencing for a long time. So I feel like his passing was actually a beautiful thing and a blessing. And then like 5 days later, I came down with what was probably COVID, and so subsequently did Alex and my daughter Kieran and William. So we were all sick. I never tested for it because the tests are stupid shams. But the hospital that my grandfather was at, they had a COVID outbreak on that floor, and pretty sure I caught it from my mom. Anyway, doesn't matter. Super sick. All the symptoms fit the bill, but it was fine. We all stayed home. Like we got over it. It just took probably like 3 weeks. But what happened is I started to notice as I was coming out of it, this strange fog and disconnection from my life and my business, for lack of a better term in this moment, my soul work, my mission, the things that I do. I just started to feel this disconnect, almost like I couldn't really emotionally connect with this life that I had manifested and created and cultivated for myself. And I didn't have any negative feelings against it. I just didn't have any feelings about it at all. And when I would wake up in the morning, I really couldn't connect with it. And I started doing my meditations again. William turned 6 months old in January. And so I was finally like in a position to be able to wake up and meditate for the first time since he was born every day. And in my meditations, I couldn't see the future. Like I couldn't see my future. All I could see was my ideal present scene, and it was very leisurely. It was my children and I, like all three of them, plus Killian's beautiful spirit, just walking along our favorite wild beach together and, looking at picking up pebbles and looking for beach glass and looking at little pieces of driftwood and listening to the birds, and then going home and just painting. And that's all I could see. And like, what a beautiful vision, right? It was absolutely beautiful. But I was so used to seeing, like, okay, what am I doing next? What is the next step of my mission? What's the next directive? Like, what am I creating? And it was just really strange. And by the time February rolled around, it hadn't let up at all. And in fact, it was only getting more notable. Like, I just felt like I was in a limbo space, of like, who am I? What is this life? Luckily, I didn't feel that way about my children or Alex. Like, I recognized them and I loved them, but I felt like a stranger in my own life. And I also started having in January these random flashbacks of memories of different times in my life. And they weren't events, like, they weren't invasive thoughts or invasive memories. None of them were trauma based. Some of them were memories of things that felt real crappy at the time. But as I remembered them, it was actually this like beautiful nostalgia of like, wow, what an incredible and wonderful life I've had. It's like remembering these moments of joy and laughter and remembering these moments of agony and drama and trauma and feeling an incredible fondness about all of it. And they would just come in as like little impressions, these little fleeting impressions of different times in my life. And it honestly, it felt like a life review. And I was like, am I just connecting with my grandfather's spirit? Is this what, like, is he life reviewing and it's making me life review? And then I asked about it in my Facebook group, and it turns out a lot of people were having the same experience and some of them had been for several months. I just, like with everything else, I just was like, well, I guess I better go with it. I started feeling, just really appreciating this life review that was happening. And then around the 2 portal of February 22nd, 2022, then I started feeling the shift in the energy. It was really, really palpable to me, like an actual portal opened up. And the way that I described it was like when you can put your hand through a mirror, where the barrier that separated like two different worlds is suddenly no longer solid, it is plasma. And you can put your hand through the mirror, but the energy on the other side of the mirror, and that, I had to be very careful and mindful. And I understood, like, oh, I am being prepared. I am being prepared to cross to the other side of this barrier, cross to this portal. And at the same time, I got this set of instructions that it is time to go. So at the time, like, I'm kind of describing it in the way that it happened, and maybe you can hear or imagine it was all hella confusing. Like, what is going on? Like, what? Like, I just didn't care about anything. I mean, I cared about my children and my family, but like, I didn't have any drive. I didn't have any motivation. I didn't have any strong emotions. I didn't have any connection to the future. And even my memories of the past were just these like mild pleasantries. It was so bizarre. And I can't say that I handled it all with grace. I had a lot of moments of, like, as humans do, assuming that I was doing something wrong and panicking and wondering, like, what am I doing wrong? How do I fix it? Blah, 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 blah. But I also just had a sense that I needed to, like, just chill the fuck out and let it be what it was, and just sense that something was happening. It kind of felt like, in talking about it with my a brilliant soul sister, Christina Luna, it helped me to understand, like, it felt as though I was having an entire new operating system installed, and that, like, January and February were sort of that period where, if you're installing the new Mac software, I can't remember what the newest one is called, Maverick or some shit, I don't know. And it has to deinstall the previous one and install the new one, and you're watching the bar, you know, that's tracking the installation progress move across your screen. It just felt like I just had to sit there and watch, and then my whole entire self was going to have to restart. Like the device that is, Amy's incarnated body was going to have to restart. I mean, I didn't die or anything, but that's kind of what it felt like. And yet at the same time, it also very much felt as though I was being dissolved, to use a more organic analogy, like I was being dissolved into, like I had unknowingly wrapped myself in a chrysalis. I built a cocoon around myself in January, and then promptly through COVID started the process of digesting my ego identity into nothingness, into a goo of, you know, particles or whatever, a goo of sub ego units, I guess. And that I just had to go through all of February just feeling like raw goo inside of the damn chrysalis. Like I am nobody, I am nothing. Who am I? I don't connect with anything, not even the earth. The only anchoring point I had was my children. But then in March, I started to feel the formation of the new structure that I was becoming, the new moth or butterfly. I like to think that I was becoming a Luna moth, the new wings, the new self formulating. And so, the way I understand this, in case anybody else has experienced this at all and you're still wondering, like, what the fuck is up, I understand this as it being like a walk in experience, but not in the kind of more traditional definition where a whole entire new soul came in and replaced the soul that was Amy, like an entirely new consciousness, but more like I hitched a ride. The actual me, the actual soul that inhabits this life that came to this earth for a reason, hitched a ride with this beautiful human. And this human had the right to have an ego identity and have it, like, its whole slew of human experiences, all of the thrills and the laughter and the fun times and the learning and, all of the shameful moments and the mistakes and the heartbreaks and the misery and the all of the illusions and the drama and the bullshit, all of it. Like this human, this Amy got to have all of it. That is the agreement, that if the actual soul consciousness that I am was going to come in and have a human life, then that human was going to have a certain period of time wherein she got to enjoy the full richness of a human life. But something about 2022 is so different energetically, so different, that it seemed to trigger the activation of the the changeover between Amy's human ego identity and Avatar Oversoul identity that has come into her place. So that's what I mean by a walk-in. It's like Amy's ego, and of course, I'm still functioning in the world in a human suit. So I still have an ego, but it has a different role. It has a different placement. It's like my ego is chilling out in the backseat of the limo with the partition up, Im- imbibing the refreshments and having a really good time. And now my oversoul is, like, my personal oversoul, which is a subunit of a greater oversoul, is now driving the limo. It's a very interesting experience. And I believe that a lot of us have been experiencing our own versions of this, because to me, it feels like the energy is totally shifted in 2022. And like we are in a new phase of the game, so to speak, which means new clarity of understanding, new clarity of purpose and mission. Although it didn't feel like that for me for a number of weeks. It felt like a complete absence of clarity. Like I just felt like blank, like I was just a blank slate. But now I feel like if I could describe where I am now, I've come out of the cocoon and my wings are still damp. And I'm working them. I got to work these muscles now and I got to flap them but I'm out of the cocoon, flapping my wings, drying off, and am about to embark on the new mission. All right. So, what is this new mission? This is what I believe, okay? I believe that the barrier that separated the two worlds, as I was saying, is now it's just plasma. It's like the the thinnest plasma membrane. It used to feel physical, and that was all a matter of perception, like damn words, damn English words and their limitations. I believe that the firmament is simply the barrier that holds us in the 3D and 4D experience. It's like the the outermost limit of how consciousness manifests itself within this bandwidth of consciousness, within this frequency that we call the third and fourth dimension. And the consciousness of Gaia herself, the actual, the Gaia logos, she she has like decided of her own accord that she is ascending. And ascension, I mean, I think I talked about it in some podcast conversations. Ascension, expansion, it's all the same thing. What I really mean to sort of try and better articulate these very new age concepts. Ascension, from what I understand, is simply the expansion of frequency of consciousness that allows us, although we are not the only ones who expand and ascend, but we're humans, so we're talking about us, the expansion of our consciousness that allows us to connect with the multidimensional consciousness that we are and that we belong to. Our human ego experience of self has historically been contained in the third and fourth dimensions as we exist on Earth. But we are much more than that, and we concurrently, meaning at the same time, we simultaneously exist throughout multiple dimensions. But we have not been able to connect with that awareness as a group. So some individuals have been able to, but we have not been able to connect as a group. And similarly, Gaia is part of a greater oversoul consciousness. She is a unique consciousness, and she has gone through the expansion of her consciousness and the ascension of her frequency so that she is now predominantly occupying the fifth dimension and higher. She still has a 3D body and a 4D astral body, so to speak, but she is not in those. She has transcended them, she has ascended beyond them, and she is now in the fifth dimension and beyond. And I believe that we are a part of her. And as her consciousness has risen, so has ours. And as our consciousness rises, it is reflected and activated simultaneously by the solar activity, the sunlight, the quality of the sunlight, the solar flares and the CMEs and all the things. And I believe that as our frequency increases, our consciousness expands and our frequency increases, and we leave behind the densities by resolving them. We resolve and dissolve the densities of illusion and trauma and disease and pain and all the heavier things that were part of, human life on earth. We are now enough of a frequency match that the edge of the firmament is no longer solid to us. It is now plasma, and we are able to merge with it and pass through it. And I believe that the instructions that I received that said it's time to go is just that. It's time to go through the barrier of the firmament, or whatever you want to call it, the barrier that used to keep us in this world. It is now time to continue the work of adjusting our frequency so that we are a match to that plasma barrier and to move through it. However, the amount of light and the rate of, like, the frequency rate on the other side of that barrier is so high. It's so high that this is not something to be undertaken without preparation. There's a level of, yeah, it's like preparing and purifying the self to be able to do this and to hold it. One of the images that I get, I don't know if any of you have seen, I mentioned this on an Instagram live the other day, but I don't know if any of you have seen the series on Amazon Prime called Wheel of Time. But if you haven't, check it out. There are these women who are, I don't know, priestesses. They aren't explicitly called priestesses, they're called, but they have the ability to channel the source light, or the one light, or I can't remember what they call it. And yet, they've had to prepare themselves and cultivate that ability. They had to develop the acuity to wield that level of power, to be able to move that light without going insane. And there's a part where they need to channel it at a greater degree than ever before. And the light is so powerful that as they're channeling it and sustaining it through their bodies in a battle, the light actually starts like melting their eyeballs inside their heads, and it burns out their physical vessel. Like their physical vessel actually dies, their body actually dies, because that's how powerful the light is. And it feels like an apt analogy, because I can feel like I feel like I've only just put my fingertips through this plasma membrane, and it's the amount of light on the other side. It's like very humbling. I can feel now, like, oh, okay, this is where we're going. This is what we need to do. But I can also feel like, oh, holy shit, we have more preparation to do. We have more preparation. There's more work to be done to release densities and to purify our consciousness and purify our physical vessels, attune ourselves to the geometries of the light that is coming through, that exists on the other side. There's more work that we need to do. But my instructions personally are that it's time. That only means there's no urgency to that. There's no sense of like, we have to go or else we're all gonna die. It's just like, it's time. Like the barrier is open. The portal is open. It's time to go. This is what you came for, and it's time now. It feels like a rallying cry to myself, and I know it's for others as well. So it doesn't mean that we are leaving. We understand everything in terms of time and space as humans, and I really am appreciating more than ever the limitations of the English language in particular in trying to communicate things like this, because the English language is meant to communicate linear concepts, and these concepts that I am connecting with are not linear. So it's like every word fails to adequately convey what I'm connecting with and what is coming through. But I'm doing my best, and I trust that you can feel my frequency and receive the keys that are being delivered through my messages, even if they fall short with the use of clunky English language. But we're not leaving we're not leaving, like we're not going away from, like just in case anybody feels like, oh my God, it's time to go. Like we have, it's going to activate all of our past traumas. I can feel it anyway. All of our past life collective traumas of any time that you've had to flee your home, like as a refugee or just as, an individual for whom home was not safe, anytime you've had to flee, um, when you weren't ready and you didn't want to. It's not that kind of energy. It is attuning to a higher frequency that allows for the experience of. Anyway, didn't I say that this was going to be succinct? Let me see. I'm already half an hour in. Okay. So I had some wild downloads come through in February and March. Absolutely wild. Biggest, most, the chief, biggest, most wild download was the chief, biggest download. I received it just a few days ago on the 24th of March, and it completely, I mean, the one I received at the beginning of February, I turned it into a masterclass called Transcend. It was a paid masterclass. It's still available to purchase the replay if you want. And that, at the time, felt like the biggest, most mind-blowing download I've ever had. This one is like, so it's profound. I now understand what it is, what it means to, like, what I, I understand it all. I understand what the flash is. I understand what the event is. I understand what the darkness is. I understand what we need to do. I understand how this is working. I understand how to move beyond this plasma membrane that I'm talking about, how to move beyond the barrier between, our existence here in the 4D, like how to create the bridge between the 4D and the 5D, how to get to the 5D and beyond. I understand how to activate our additional strands of DNA. I understand how to activate our light bodies. It's like I just got like such a huge, huge, huge download of understanding. So big. And so I'm so big, way too big for a podcast. So I am hosting another masterclass, but this time I'm going to make it free. And it's going to be on April 1st. And I'm making it free because this information is for everybody. Like this information is so clarifying. It's like they've just removed, I don't know, it's sort of like we graduated, like so much of our existence before was stumbling around in the dark trying to figure out like what the fuck is happening here and what we're supposed to do about it. And a lot of us have had this sense of a purpose and a mission and the knowledge that we were born for a reason, and it wasn't to, piss our lives away working in a cubicle in an office setting or whatever. Like not everybody feels that way, but a lot of us have. And yet we didn't have all the instructions, we didn't have all the information. And I'm sure there's even more clarity to come through. In fact, I know because I just did an Akashic reading this morning that similarly blew my mind. Blew my mind with the information that came through. But it's like now we've entered into a new phase of the game plan, a new phase of the mission. And we're now, in the briefing, we're receiving more information. So I got handed a download, fills out the picture so much that I don't really have any personal questions at this point. Like I am not wondering about anything. I understand it. I now understand it. And I know that it is my job to relay it to others. So I really hope you will join me for this free masterclass. After it's done, I'll probably repurpose some of it to be on the podcast, but it's probably going to be long because I'm long-winded. So I don't know. And if you have questions, like if you can come live, that would be pretty awesome because then I always leave room at the end for questions because it's my greatest joy to connect with all of you and, hear your voices and be in conversation. So please join me for that masterclass. There will probably be a link in the show notes. by the time this podcast episode goes out, I imagine. If not, then just go to my website, which will be linked in the show notes. And then the other thing that I want to talk about, and I'll talk about it again at the masterclass, but I also channeled, as a result of this experience that I had through January, February, and March, I've channeled a program. It's a 6-week live program, or it's a course or whatever. Basically it's going to be like 5 lectures and a Q&A, or maybe 6 lectures, who knows, whatever. It's going to be 6 weeks, and it's all about ascension. So it takes you from the very beginning, the human ego experience, all the way up into like, spiritual awakening, soul consciousness, soul ego, refined spirit consciousness, archetypal self, avatar self, and sort of the supreme, merging with the supreme oneness, consciousness. And so it's not just about awakening. It is awakening, but it's also ascension through the lens of who you actually are. So the program is called Who the Fuck Am I? 6 weeks live. It's going to be so awesome. I'm really excited about it. If you've ever wanted to take Into the Akasha, or you've already taken Into the Akasha and you enjoyed it, I highly recommend this, because this is like, I'm not explicitly going to be teaching you how to access the Akashic records. However, the activation of your psychic abilities will be a byproduct of the integration, like an automatic byproduct of the integration of the information that comes through this course. And it's like everything that I have, it's the evolution of my own understanding, the culmination of everything that I have come to understand and learn about existence, about the multiple dimensions, about ascension, and how to do it. And I was charging $333 for that live course, which still felt like a steal of a deal, because it's so like, when you sign up, you get lifetime access. And the thing that's coming through is like codes upon codes upon codes, and keys upon keys upon keys, that will activate you continuously, more than just listening to everything once. Like it's going to have this ripple effect onward and outward through your life. So I felt like $333 is really great. But then after I got that other download that I'm sharing in the masterclass, I just knew, like, oh no, more people need this. I have to lower the price. This has to be, yeah, more people need to take this. So I really, I invite you, like, I want to give you this information. Please join me in this course. There has to be, in order for you to really receive this information, there has to be some degree of energy exchange to honor, basically, to honor you and your right to claim this information for yourself, but also to honor me and how much I have shaped and structured my life to be an open vessel to receive this information and translate it so that I can share it with all of you. But if $155 is still too much for you, like you're just like hard up in life and you literally can't make that payment, or 2 payments of 88 for the payment plan, then please reach out to me and we will figure it out. This course, like pretty much everything I've ever created, I think continues to be available like as a self-paced course in the future. So there's no hurry. I'm just excited to do it. But there's something so magical about doing it live and being like together in all of our energy and asking questions and answering questions, and for all of you to get your personal support. And then I also got this set of instructions to bring together. At first it was 12 souls, and now it's 2 groups of 12 souls, so 24 in total, to bring together souls of a certain frequency who feel the activation when I say it's time to go. And when you hear me talking about crossing that barrier and fine-tuning our frequency, purifying our consciousness, and creating the bridge between this realm and, the 5D and beyond. That these are the souls that this is for. When you hear me say that, even if you don't fully know what it looks like, it doesn't totally make sense, but intuitively you hear it, you feel it, you're like, oh, that's me. It's time to go. I am here to be a living bridge. I am a living bridge. I am a living stargate. I am a Christed being. I am now stepping into my Christed self, meaning the Christos frequency, not related to or interpreted through religious dogma, but the pure Christ-light frequency. I am being activated into my Christed self. I am a bridge. I am a bridge between heaven and earth, so to speak. So this is a group, I'm calling it a group mentorship program, but again, it's just the failings of English. It is a group of souls coming together to reinforce each other. We create geometries and patterning through our connection, and we amplify the frequency that we each hold so that it is stronger and steadier and more distinct, defined in its crystalline geometries, in its patterning, so that we can become the living bridge that allows others to access the 5D. We are living stargates. We are living bridges. We are the living bridge. So this is something starting on April 12th, the day of the Neptune and Jupiter conjunction in Pisces. And I am doing this. I'm already doing it, but I'm officially starting on April 12th. And I'm going to hold this frequency throughout the rest of the year. So it is a 9-month program. However, it's quarterly enrollment. So 3 months at a time is the enrollment. And it's a very unique program. It's not for everyone. You don't have to be far along on your awakening journey. You might have just awakened 3 days ago. It doesn't matter. It's that you know what I'm talking about on some level when I talk about this frequency of light. That's what matters, is your knowing that you are here to hold this light, and we are going to hold it together, and we are going to activate the grid from our part. I'm so excited because I'm sure there are others in the world who are receiving similar instructions, and our grid is going to connect with theirs as well. It's very, very exciting. I don't know what you're all feeling, but I can feel in the energy that what once felt like prophecy is now happening. Now. It's happening now. It's here. It's very exciting. So yeah, find the information for both of those, for the course, Who the Fuck Am I, and for 1212, which is that group for holding the frequency, the Christ light frequency, the Christic mission of being the living bridge. You can find the information on my website, links in the show notes. Please join me on my masterclass. Please, if you can't be there live, no big whoop. You get to keep the replay and watch it as many times as you want, and it's free, okay? It's free, please. And the thing is, like, the reason I'm kind of begging is because A, this download is so profound, but B, because I know that when things are free, people tend to not value them, and they don't I know, because I've done this when people run free master classes or whatever and free webinars, blah blah blah, and then I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, I'll get to it later. The reason I'm running it for free is because this information has to be received by everyone who is in my field and resonates with me. This was for me. This download was for me, but it's not only for me, it's for all of us. And I can't create even one single barrier. Okay, this needs to be free, but it's so important that I need to emphasize it. I'm like, please don't discount it just because it's free. Please know that this the information in this download is really going to help you clarify what you need to do, because it's go time. We're moving forward now. The old constructs of how we lived our lives before, they're gone. That's all gone. You can try and hold on to it while it dissolves, or you can step into the purpose and the mission, the reason that you came to this earth, and the reason that you even found my podcast and resonate with me enough to be listening to me speak right now. Okay, that was my summary for where I've been and what I've been up to. Man, this year, this year is like, I know 2020 was a game changer and 2021 was also a game changer, but 2022 is a whole different story. It is a whole different story. I just want to sing love songs to all of you and bring you into this frequency. Bring you into this frequency out of the illusion and into this frequency of truth and, oh, diamond crystalline rainbow plasma light of multidimensionality. So come join me in my various things. And I'm sorry I was gone for so long, but I guess I really needed to like go through a hard reset and create a lot of space to be able to receive and integrate these downloads that I've gotten. I love you all, and I will catch you next week on the next episode, my friends. It's great to be back. Have a beautiful day or night wherever you are, and I love you more than I can possibly say.
Thank you so much for being here with me on this episode. I appreciate you more than my words could ever say. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and share, and I will catch you on the next episode.